think it's fair to assume that many of us have passions and interests that we've set aside for various reasons. Whether it was because we were pursuing a career, raising a family, or simply navigating the demands of life. Am I right? Is this you? Well, in this episode, we're going to explore the idea of reigniting those passions, hobbies, and dreams that may have been put on hold.
Hi, and welcome to Beyond Empty Nest. I'm your host, Jody Silverman, speaker, mentor, and Chief Dare Officer at Moms Who Dare. Every Thursday, I'll share stories of midlife transformation, happiness tips, and dare you to see the opportunities waiting for you so that you can make this next chapter even better than the last. If you're ready to dare, I'm ready to dare with you. Let's get into today's episode.
I think it's fair to assume that many of us have passions and interests that we've set aside for various reasons. Whether it was because we were pursuing a career, raising a family, or simply navigating the demands of life. Am I right? Is this you? Well, in this episode, we're going to explore the idea of reigniting those passions, hobbies, and dreams that may have been put on hold. Join myself and today's guest, Melissa Davey, as we delve into the journey of rediscovery and discuss how it's never too late to pursue what really truly lights a fire within you. This is what we call daring, ladies. So, documentary filmmaker Melissa Davey, age 73, retired from a lengthy corporate career in 2016 to pursue her third act and dream of becoming a filmmaker. And that is where I'm literally going to stop, and I'm going to let my guest, Melissa, fill in the details and share her story, because it is a powerful story that can be your story as well. Welcome to Beyond Empty Nest, Melissa.
Thank you, and I really appreciate you having me.
Yeah.
Let me share a little bit about me.
Yeah.
I was in a big corporate job for more than 2 decades. And it was going well. I was having a great time. I loved it. I could almost do it in my sleep. And which, that comes with 2 decades of doing it. And, I looked at the clock one day. It was just one of these weird things in the calendar. And I realized that I was still going, at full speed, and I was 65 years old. And I remember sitting there thinking, wow, I wonder if I'm going to retire. What am I going to do? Am I going to retire? I really had not had that retirement conversation with anyone. And there was no expectation in the company that I would leave. I could still be there now at 73. They have many people who are in their 70s and pushing 80 that are still working. But it was just this feeling that overcame me. And I started to think about all of the things that I hadn't done yet in life that I was interested in, and I've done a lot. And I just realized, wow, I wonder how much time I really have left to do all these things. And how would I even, what should I do about that?
Right.
And then a couple of things happened. One was a very bad, monotonous, deja vu kind of a meeting in Washington, D.C., where, I had been going down there to testify to Congress on disability issues for years. And I remember sitting there thinking, wow, I'm 65 and we're still having this conversation. This never changes. And then at the same time, the CEO coming to me saying, hey, we're going to be bought out again by another private equity company. So they're going to expect another 5 years of your commitment. So all of this happened at the same time. And I thought, when he said that to me, it really hit me that, yes, I will have to say to this company that I will dig in for another 5 years, which will put me then to 70. And then the list that I started to create in my mind about all the interesting things I wanted to do, what happens to that? What if I don't make it to 70? Or what if?
Yeah.
And then it just hit me that, what? I don't know how much time I have left, but I definitely want to do more than what I'm doing right now. So that list became something that I would toy with and look at, and filmmaking on the list kept rising to the top. not because I had any experience, but because I was just really, really interested in how a film would be made, or, what part could I play in that? I was willing at that point to do anything related to film to see if I could, stick my toe in it and do something with it.
All right, well, we're going to get into what happened as a result of that, but I love something you said. And you're not the first person to say this. The first person I ever heard share about the whole questioning and then making a list was my DARE mentor. I call her my DARE mentor, Luann Kahn, who I also interviewed for this podcast. She is an 8-time Emmy award-winning broadcast journalist right here in Philadelphia.
Mhm.
And she found herself kind of stuck for other reasons, but thinking, now what? And she started with a list as well. We're going to get more into that. And then just to share with you, it always is when you get curious, when you ask a question, whether you just ask it out loud or internal, that you have that moment, like you sitting there feeling like we're still in the same place. Is this really what I want? And then, and that allows you to open up your mind to the what ifs. And sometimes what ifs can keep you from doing what you want, but sometimes those what ifs are exactly what you need to launch you into daring to discover, what if I could do this? And I love that you share that, because it is powerful. First of all, you will share your skincare routine at some other point with all of us. Because now, I mean, I promise you. And today, 70s are like, we always say 40 is a new 30, 50, like we're always taking 10 years, but it's true. It's true. There's so much more opportunity for us. Don't believe there's not, is what your message does. So one thing on your list was filmmaking.
Right.
So, and this is the part of your big message here is we're never too old to try something new. Tell everybody, and I know we could talk for an hour, but how did this happen for you?
Okay. It was a little weird in that
Like weird.
down in Washington, D.C. at that lousy Deja Vu meeting, I came home early because I was so just upset with the whole thing. And I thought, oh, this is getting ridiculous. Plus, my mind had already started to wander about what am I going to do after this? Because I definitely didn't want to die at my desk. So I came home early one day, went to see a friend that I hadn't seen in, I don't know, a long time because I was so busy all the time. And she said, okay, but you have to come with me to pick up her daughter from school, and we're going to drop her at Horse Barn. And I live in Chester County, Pennsylvania. So we picked up her daughter. We drove up this dirt road in Chester County to drop her off. And my friend said, I think somebody's making a film over there, because I come up here every day and I see all these lights and whatnot. So after we dropped Grace off, we stopped at the side of the road, and I said, oh yeah, they're definitely making a movie. And I was taking in the scene and I was getting all excited. And I said, I bet I know who it is. And she looked at me like, how could you know who's in the woods making a film? And I said, it's got to be M. Night Shyamalan, because this looks pretty spooky. And, I think it might be him. So I pulled up my iPhone and pulled up his website, and a picture came up of exactly where we were sitting at that moment.
Cool.
And yeah, it was like, whoop. And I said, so yes, it is him. And there was a red button on the website that said Charity Buzz. So I pressed it. Win a day on the set with M. Night Shyamalan. So she said, well, this is like Kiss. You have to do this. So I started betting and betting. And for the next couple of weeks, I was betting against a dentist in New Jersey. And we just kept betting more. And I was getting more excited about the potential of spending time with this guy on the set, not knowing what it would even mean. And I won. Short story, I won the day on the set, meaning that all of the proceeds from the betting went to his education foundation, which I could justify as an okay expense, which is, yeah. So there I was. I signed all the NDAs. I showed up at 7 o'clock in the morning in Philly at the train station where he was going to be filming The Visit that day. And I spent more than 8 hours behind the camera with him. And, I thought I was just going to be sitting in a chair watching, but he was very inclusive and was asking me questions and allowing me to ask questions. And when we sat together at lunch, he said, "What do you do for work?" And this is a guy who's only been a filmmaker his whole life. And I'm almost old enough to be his mother. So I'm trying to explain this disability insurance, Social Security. I tried to do it as quickly as possible. He kind of glazed over and he said, "Oh, what do you really want to do?" And I said, "Oh, I want your job." And he said, "Well, you better hurry up." And it was like a joke conversation that lasted for a number of seconds. But when he said, "You better hurry up," it hit me in my, I could actually physically feel movement within myself, thinking, he's right. Whether he knows it or not, he just lit a fire in me so that by the time I got home late that night, I walked in the door and I said, "I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to make a movie." I said that to my husband, who kind of stood there and just shook his head like, "Oh, okay." Not quite knowing where all that came from, but he's known me for a long time and he knows that I like to challenge myself a bit. So that's when it happened. So the next day I gave my notice, a very long one for a year, so that I could mentor somebody to
Wow.
take over this division that I had built for the company. And during that year's time, I had all the planning time I needed to start making other lists about what don't I know, what do I need, what would I have to do to get there. So I set it up so that when I left work, I had already started the film Beyond 60.
Wow. Wow. I didn't even, this is the first time I'm hearing
Yeah,
the
yeah,
whole story. Oh my God. It's like divine timing.
yeah,
The universe works that way. Everybody who
it
follows me,
does.
this show is all about stories of midlife transformation sprinkled with a little woo. Well, it's getting
Yeah.
more a lot woo because if you pay attention, the
Mhm.
universe shows you signs. You paid attention to that thought while you were sitting there listening. Was it Congress, you said?
What's that?
We're in DC, you were at
Oh, yeah, a congressional meeting
a
in
congressional meeting.
DC.
You
It,
paid attention to this, and a universe
oh,
gives you signs in the way of thoughts, people, the fact that you show that your friend and you pulled
mhm.
over and you went on the website, it's all those signs. So I
Right.
love that.
Yeah.
I love it. Now, you're beyond 60. I want you to share the success of that, and then I'm gonna ask you a question because we're
Okay.
going to share a link in the show notes to watch that documentary and share this because I want people to know. So maybe we'll start with this. Number one, that story, you're never too old. So
Right.
stop telling yourself you're too old. Stop telling yourself you're too late. And we'll get to beyond 60 in a minute. But you also say the reason you're never too old, one of the reasons is that age brings experience and wisdom
Yeah.
with it. And I like how you said you made lists. You probably made lists of the things you did know, but maybe what you didn't know,
Mhm.
what you learned, what you would need to learn more of.
Exactly.
And that's a self-awareness piece of
Right.
understanding.
But that comes with age.
Right.
So for me at 65 to say, "Oh, gee, I think I'll be a filmmaker."
Right.
I was already schooled enough in building things, creating things, managing things, people, whatever, to know what I didn't know and
Yeah.
to be comfortable with that.
Yeah.
To know when you're older, you finally realize when you start a new job, you're not supposed to know everything. You
No.
don't know everything. And you shouldn't feel bad about that. You're going to learn it along the way and you're going to, gain confidence and you can carry that into your older age. And when I talk about wisdom that comes from experience, that carries you for a long time after you might leave the workforce. I
Yeah.
mean, look at all you've learned in all of the years that you were a mother, a worker, or whatever it is that you've done. It's an amazing feeling to be on the other side of that and confident enough to say, "I don't care if I flub this up. I'll be fine. I'll just pick up and do something new."
Yes.
But I wouldn't have said that when I was 40. I would
No.
have been devastated.
Yeah.
Devastated.
I wouldn't have done that at 40 either. But you said something very important. I had a conversation many, many years ago with two women who literally were life coaches specifically in helping working stay-at-home moms, and I call them working, the stay-at-home moms is a
Yeah.
profession, by the way,
Right.
that the women who decide to walk away from a traditional career to be full-time moms, help them re-enter the workforce. And I'll never forget what they said. And you just said it, look at your experience.
Mhm.
You know, you look at it and I had, you know, you could, it's easy to say, oh, well, whatever. I was PTO mom and yeah, I ran a cupcake sale. You ran a cupcake sale.
It's a
Okay.
management job.
Child putting together the annual pizza, pasta, dinner fundraiser at your child's elementary school. That takes a lot of party planning, coordination, organizational skills. And you reminded me
Absolutely.
of that. Like in this list, maybe even start there with, you know, what have I done? And just write down, even if you can't translate it into what the skill set is, write down the things you've executed and done. Running
Absolutely.
a household, for goodness sakes. I look now back when I worked at corporate America, I thought, how did I get it all done? How did I go to work, earn the
Exactly.
income and the salary and have, you know, the sales job that I had, get my kids to the doctors, have dinner, but we do it because of time management skills.
That's
So
right. That's
don't
right.
forget that you have the experience and the wisdom. And yes, that's the only way you get that is with age.
Right. And
Only,
also knowing that when you fail at something, you can recover from it.
yeah.
It teaches you a lesson. So you fail at this, it didn't work out real well. What did it teach you? So now you can go do it this way. And now it works better for you. And there isn't that younger year anxiety attached to it. Like, oh, I'm a failure. Oh my God, I better not try this again because I already failed, you know. I mean, that's just part of doing is failing.
I
So
recently had a flop, not recently, about a year ago. I had my first time I ever felt like, and I know I did, flopped a talk in front of a small group of women. I've never flopped a talk. And you know what? If I hadn't been in my 50s, I'm 57. If I had been in my 30s or my 40s, more in my 40s, I didn't start this career till I was in my mid 40s. I would have been devastated. I might have never talked again. But this time, I mean, I wasn't happy when I left. I'm like, oh God, that it didn't feel good. And yet I was able to say, okay, I know exactly why it happened.
right.
And it didn't happen in front of a group of 100 or 1,000 women. Not that I wanted to happen at all, but it was a forgiving group. And I'm like, you
Yeah.
know what? They still got value. I was able to say they got value and I'm learning.
Right.
So yeah, the experience is what brings along the awareness. The awareness comes with
Yeah.
experience. So, you know, that's the beautiful thing about our age, about being 50,
Mhm.
60, 70, going into 80s. I
Yeah.
interviewed a woman in her 80s who's still doing
Mhm.
remarkable things.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So, all right. So, and I love this. You say, take the detours. You may take the detours. You may find something that changes your life. You took, so what other, was there other detours besides the one where you like literally went and stopped on the side of the road?
I've taken detours my whole life because I'm really curious.
Okay.
And, you know, I'm very curious about seeing new things and, you know, understanding where I live and, you know, what's going on around me. I never would travel the same way to work. I would mix it up. I never went to the same restaurant over and over. I would mix it up, you know, and I would constantly, if when I did that, find something new or see something new that I would jot down so that I could go back and look at it again. And it's just it it's something that I think a lot of people just don't do because they're in a routine and they go to the same way to work because they understand that that's what works best for them, or they eat at the same restaurant every Tuesday and Thursday and they just don't try anything new. And to me, you're missing opportunities then to see something that might just shake you a little bit to say, ooh, what is that? And why am I interested in that? And what does that do for me? So I've always been that way. So this taking the detour that day at work and not going back to work, but rather going up that dirt road is just a huge example of what you might find when you drive. And it literally has changed my whole life.
Yeah, no, and I love that. And there's a woman, I'm going to introduce you to this woman. Her name is Cheryl Ott, shout out if she should listen to this. Her business is called Dare to Detour.
Ah,
And she
cool.
talks about how a series of detours led her to where she is today. and I think you would enjoy talking to her. So
Oh, I
I
would love it.
note to self, I'm writing it on my
Okay.
paper here.
All right.
We're talking. All right, so so it says, pursuing your dream of becoming a filmmaker became a reality in late 2018 when you completed your first, not film, award-winning film, Beyond 60. And that's a feature-length documentary about women over the age of 60, which the link is below. Absolutely watch it. But it couldn't, so I would love you to share a little bit of some of the challenges that you had to overcome or navigate. Because there's so many women here thinking they might want to write a book, or maybe they want to
Right.
create a film, maybe they want to start a podcast.
Yes.
And that could be something I could share. But what were some of because you went from this corporate job to a filmmaker.
I
I mean,
know.
but I'm hearing this more and more as I meet amazing women like yourself, and I put myself out there to meet women like you, Melissa, that there's so much creativity inside all of us, whether you're in a job that's super left brain or in a the creativity is there in all of us. We just have to give ourselves permission to open up to the possibilities. So talk a little bit about making Beyond 60 and how, because where it is now, I want you to get to where it was and like of some of the challenges that you had to overcome, because
Yeah.
it didn't just like, oh, I'm going to be a
Oh,
filmmaker,
no.
boom, I did it.
No, it took almost 3 years to make the film.
There you go. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Well, when I came home that night from M. Night Shyamalan's train scene, I thought about, I was laying in bed. I was so excited I couldn't go to sleep. And I knew I was going to give my notice the next day. So then I thought, well, I've made this declaration to my husband that I'm going to be a filmmaker. And I've made a declaration that I'm going to quit my job tomorrow. So what am I going to make a film about? And then I thought, well, the most logical thing and the easiest thing I thought for me was to do something that related to me. And that was to do a film about women, real stories about women that were my age and older, to show that we're still relevant and that we're resilient and that we have all kinds of opportunities ahead of us. So I thought, well, okay, that will be easy because I'll understand it. So I didn't say, I'm going to sit down and write a script for a comedy series about old women. There's no way I would have done that right out of the gate. I took what I thought would be the easiest thing for me to do. And then it was starting the list of what do I need to do to even get started?
Right.
What do I do? And so I met with somebody that had connections to the film world. And I said, I need to talk to a production company. Who do you know? So they introduced me to somebody. We had a meeting. They loved the idea. And we all clicked and we decided to do this together. So I knew that I needed somebody with the expertise in camera, lighting, sound, all of that. And this production company in Philadelphia said, we'll come along the ride with you. We'll do this together. So they were all these 25 to 35-year-old people. And then there was me who was 65. So I became the mentee. They were the mentors on the film side. And I was their mentor, kind of giving them the overview of what it's like to get older and what people go through as they get older.
Wow.
And it was really good for them.
That's beautiful,
And
actually.
yeah, and most of the owners of the production company were young men. Now I had female crew, but they learned a lot from all of the women that we interviewed. And there are 9 women in the film Beyond 60 from all over the country with completely different stories. And, ranging in age from 63 to 87. And just talking about their life and just talking about where they are now and where they're going. And what you walk away with after hearing them is that it's just plain truth that older people should not fade away. They're not fading away. If you walk past any of us on the street, you wouldn't consider talking with us or asking us what our story is. But if you did sit down and you listened to it, you might gain some real insight into your own life and what your future might hold. So that was the impetus for doing the film. And it took almost 3 years to complete it because it was, I was also on the time schedule of the production company that had other work.
Right.
But we would travel together in a team and do the filming and the editing. And so I learned that whole process, which is daunting in some ways, and very tedious at the end. I mean, at the end of making a film, it becomes business-like. And it reminded me of work. And I was like, there's parts of it I don't love. It's all
Right.
the legal and the insurance and,
Yep.
making sure that you have all your I's dotted and T's crossed. So, but it was such a wonderful experience. And it gave me so much joy hearing these people's stories and being able to bring them to the world. So my goal when I started it was, could I even make one? That was the goal. Could I make a film? I didn't even think beyond that. So
Right.
the film was made, then it was, well, let's start,
What do we do with it?
submitting. Yeah, exactly. Submitting to film festivals, which I did. And, 8 different festivals took the film and it won some awards at the film festivals, which was great. So it just made me realize that somebody with absolutely no experience, but a great desire or curiosity can do whatever they need to do as long as they bring in the help that they need around them. I just knew right then that, wow, I wonder why I didn't do this sooner. But then I would say, because you just weren't supposed to. It wasn't time
No,
till
no, it
now.
wouldn't have been what it
Yeah,
is today. You said so
yeah,
many, there were so many good things. First of all, the gift you gave the crew, that generation of the age of the people in the crew, and the gift they gave you. You learned, I'm
yes,
sure you learned a lot from them.
a
But I'm
lot.
sure that all of them started to view their mothers a little bit differently. And
Hmm.
I think that's a really good gift. I went to a women's retreat and I was hanging out for 3 days and I was I don't think I was 50. I might have just been 50 or I was in my late 40s. And there were 28-year-olds or my daughter's age, but I was hanging out with them together in a personal
Yeah.
growth way. And I learned so much from them and they learned.
Oh,
And I like when the generations interact because we
I
have
do
so much to
too.
learn from each other. And
Right.
I love that you said that. I also, what was the other thing that you said? Um, oh my God, there was something else you said that I had to say something about. Oh, it'll come to me. That's called a menopause moment. Oh,
Happens all
it's
the time.
real,
That's
and it
way
happens,
behind.
and it happens here on Beyond Emptiness. But I love that story. I love the story about you, just finding the right people and doing it. So now where is Beyond 60 today, besides in the
Yeah,
Shelley Club?
right. It got stuck in COVID. We did the film festivals in 2019, and then 2021 was difficult because of COVID. And then all of the streaming platforms changed how they did business. So I finally got a distributor in 2021, and it's been out there since that time. And it's on most streaming platforms like Amazon Prime and Apple TV, Google TV, Tubi, uh,
Exciting.
Vimeo, Vudu, where, it's on most platforms that you can find it. You just type in Beyond 60.
Wait a minute. Didn't you share a story with me about an airplane story? Was
Which,
it you? No, somebody else must have shared a story about the airplane with me,
yeah.
about the film showing up on.
Oh, no, no, you're
That was
right. You're right. You're
you.
right. Okay. Because it wasn't me. I heard the story
I'm like,
secondhand. One of the women in the film
that's it. Yeah.
was coming back from Europe on a long haul. It is on long haul flight, you know,
Yeah.
TVs. And she was sitting apparently just like one row over and up from a person that was watching movies. And he kept looking at her, and every now and then she'd look over and she's like, oh. And finally he said, Are you are you in a movie? And she said, what do you mean? He said, well, I'm watching this Beyond 60. Is this, and she started laughing. She goes, yeah, that's me. She said,
Oh,
he said,
cool.
oh, it's really a cool movie. So yeah, it was really neat. It was a great story for her to come back with.
Yeah, I highly recommend it. So, your dreams can come true. And before we get to the dare, which if anybody hasn't figured out yet, it's been woven in throughout this whole conversation. Before we get to the dare, Do you have anything new in the works that you want to share with anybody?
I do. And I will, my second film is called Climbing into Life, and it is the life story of Deirdre Wallenick, who is Alex Honnold's mother. Alex Honnold of the movie Free Solo that won the Academy Award. She is the oldest person to climb El Capitan, and she was never an athlete. So her story is quite interesting, and she's now in her 70s, and she's climbing and doing all kinds of amazing things for a woman her age. And, you know, right now I would tell you, I'm hoping in the next 2 days it's completely done. So I'm working fast and furious on with the production folks to get everything done.
Oh,
And
this
then
will be done by the time you'll be done by the time this airs.
yeah, yes,
We're here talking
absolutely.
to the audience in June right now. And you
Yes,
and I are talking a couple months earlier.
that's right. And I'm going to screen this film at the 333 Quest 2024.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
right. Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, so
So
I
I'm
got,
gonna,
yeah, okay.
you'll
That's
get to see it there. Yeah, so it's been an exciting ride. This one took me almost 2 years, and this one I produced myself. So I directed, produced. I didn't bring on a production team. I just hired people as I needed them and managed it that way. So it was a lot less expensive.
Listen, look at you from corporate exec to filmmaker to director to producer. I'm inspired. I'm
It's
inspired. And
fun.
yeah, I'm really excited to see this next project of yours. And I highly recommend watching Beyond 60. We all need to find, and we all deserve to find inspiration wherever we go, surround ourselves. And so, okay, that leads us to the dare.
Mm-hmm.
All right. You know what your dare is?
I do. I would dare anybody and everyone to make a list, no matter where you are in life right now. Make a list of all of the things that have interested you, that you were very curious about. Maybe there's only one thing, or
Yeah.
maybe there's 10. All of the things that you have been interested in that you didn't follow up on because you thought that's not your path, or I didn't go to school for that, or my mom and dad said I shouldn't do that, or people will think I'm crazy. You know, you can come up with a million excuses as to why you didn't do something, but making the list and staring at that list and letting one come to the top, one that's the most inspiring and interesting to you. I dare you to sit with that for a while and then make a list of all of the reasons why you shouldn't do it or couldn't do it. And then make a list of the reasons why you should and what you need in order to make that start to happen. It doesn't have to be an overnight decision, but it has to be an awareness within you that, wow, if only I knew this, I could do that. Or if only I had this support, I could do that. So what's stopping you from getting the support or the this that you need? And mainly talking with people, taking your list and talking with you or me or
Yes.
whoever you talk with, family members, a coach, a therapist, whoever anybody talks to, and just walking through that. What do I have to do this? Maybe it's 5 years out. I don't know.
Right.
But
But just making that list, Melissa, will open up the energy around you for the universe, whether you call it whatever you want, divine
yes,
intervention, universe, whatever, to bring you signs, people, things,
yes,
opportunities. All of a sudden, just that list opens up your mind to the what ifs and the possibilities. Good what
absolutely,
ifs, right? So start with any
absolutely.
list. I love this dare. This is one of my favorite dares because it all begins there, because the list starts by bringing your dreams back up to your self-awareness and to start dreaming again. And that's when magic happens. So I love it. Thank you. Thank you. We have to give a shout out to our friend Diana, who without her, we would never have met. And
I
we live so
know.
close to each other too. So I
I
love
know.
you in person. And yeah, this was a great conversation. So everybody listening, what was your takeaway? What was it from Melissa's story? What did she say? Because every one of my guests will say one thing that will hit you in such a way that you're like, oh my God, yes. What was that for you? Leave us a comment on our YouTube channel. Leave us a comment in the way of a review. If you listen to us on Apple Podcasts, shoot me an email. I'm on Facebook. I'm everywhere. You can find me. Send me a direct message on social media. Let me know what it was. Let Melissa know. I make sure if you send me any love on what Melissa said here today, I will make sure she gets it and she knows who sent it. And don't forget that next week we'll be back with another brand new episode of Beyond Empty Nest. And as I always say, dare on. Thank you for listening to this episode of Beyond Empty Nest. For detailed show notes and more information, be sure to visit jodysilverman.com. Have you heard of the Double Darers? Well, we're a community of moms and midlife women blending virtual and in-person interactions for connection, support, and exciting experiences. From Mommy and Me classes to soccer sidelines, moms have always found strength in community. And as we navigate the empty nest and other midlife transitions, having that go-to safe space and other women to lean on is a must. Ladies, this is not the chapter to do it alone. Our drama-free group echoes the sentiment of the Cheers theme song, a place where everybody knows your name and our troubles are all the same. If you've been seeking connection and have a desire to figure out who you are and what your purpose is now, then Moms Who Double Dare is the perfect fit for you. Only through the link in our show notes below can you explore and enjoy the first month at half off. Plus, with no contracts, there's zero risk involved. Join us today and get started on your journey of self-discovery, surrounded by new friends who understand and get you. You've sent your kids off to brave new experiences, meet new people, and discover who they get to be. Now, it's your turn. It's your turn to embrace this new adventure. If you're ready to dare on, I'm here to lead the way. Let's embark on this exciting journey together. Click the link below, and as I always say, dare on.